against odds time, trying to talk our way to some wins with Azor's Elocutors. Oh, God. Alright, we got a mulligan that one. I guess we can try this. Keep the land. Hollowed Fountain, Goo. Wooded Foothills. Cracks it, Mountain. And Goblin Guide. Alright, at least that gets us a land. So there's our island. We will... well, let's just suspend Ancestral Visions for now. Pass the turn. Let the counters start getting off of it. Also works well with Paradox Haze. So we kind of got the Paradox Haze combo this hand. Unfortunately, it doesn't really help with real burn spells. Opponent swings with both. We do not get a land. Cryptic on top. Down to 15. Oh. Looks like a bolt, perhaps? Yep. Alright. Oh, man. This feels like it could be a rough matchup. Down to 11. Ancestral ticks down. Island. I guess we suspend our escape. Feels like it's going to be too slow, though. Eidolon of the Great Revels. We take 3. Do we get a land? We do. Well, at least we get to leave up Cryptic. That fogs for a turn. Everything starts ticking down. Now, Plains go. And then we'll just use Cryptic to tap down our opponent's team. Still, eventually they're going to draw the burn to kill us. And I don't think we can really get out of that. So, tap and draw. Another Contagion Clasp. Rift Bowl exiled, and we don't get our stuff until the next turn. Lava Spike. How do we stay alive? I guess Cryptic buys us another turn, which maybe buys us a turn after that. Yeah, that does it. Hey, alright. Burn. Fun times. We definitely want the ley lines. We can go down a Contagion Clasp, an Escape, and a Supreme Verdict. Let's try it like that. We get to play first, so we get... jeez, that's a sure mulligan. No colored mana. Alright, Snapcaster to the bottom. Scalding Tarn, crack it. Hallowed Fountain, untapped. Suspend Visions, Mountain for our opponent. Goblin Guide. Really would be nice if this gave us a land. Land, please? One time. Another Ancestral. Well, that would be awesome if we were in a matchup where we would reasonably expect to live long enough to cast Ancestral. Alright, let's suspend another Ancestral. Not looking good. Not at all. Arid Mesa. Cracks it. Stomping Grounds. Untapped. Atarka's Command, maybe? Text with Goblin Guide. We get a remand that we can't cast. There's Atarka's Command. So we're down to 9. Visions tick down. Still 2 turns away from the first one. Pass the turn since we're not finding lands. I mean, I think barring Leyline, this is a rough matchup either way. Opponent attacks with Goblin Guide. Do we get a land? We get a Paradox Haze. Well, let's path. We're pretty just dead to burn spells, though, without a land. That's the big issue. Sacred Foundry, untapped. Boros Charm, down to 5. Lava Spike to 2. We draw a non-land, and now we're dead to any burn spell. Yeah, that is not how we drew it up. Well, I guess we could have went to 5. Maybe that'd be better. Oh well. Burn's a rough matchup either way. Alright, against the odds time, Elocuting in, oh my goodness, Modern. Also, mulliganing often in Modern. We will try this. Yeah, alright, we'll keep it. There's our, there's our Elocutor. We're gonna play that tap. Pass the turn. So we got the combo, got the Paradox Haze, the Elocutor. So let's just Island go. Maybe remand something. Whoa. Okay. What are we up against? Plains Radiant Fountain is very unique. Hallowed Fountain go. It's been a while since I've seen Radiant Fountains. Whoa! Double! Okay. Since they got rid of Amulet Bloom, haven't seen as many Radiant Fountains around. Alright, another Supreme Verdict. Whoa! They got Radiant Fountain Tron. Hopefully they have color spells that they can't cast because they're being punished for playing so many Radiant Fountains. Martyr of Sands, sure. I mean, we could remand it, but it doesn't seem that great. I really want to draw a land before we start doing things. Gonna sack the Martyr. Gonna get to see our opponent's hand. Triple Radiant Fountain. Up to 41. Alright, see your Ascendant. Yeah. We probably don't want that to resolve. That might kill us, actually. Well, let's path the Ascendant. Still did not draw land, even with that remand. Contagion Clasp. Oh, Lord. Well, Paradox Haze targeting ourselves. Go. Oh, seriously? Flips it around. And what, you have two of them? Oh, my lord. Alright. The jank is super strong. And another Paradox Haze. Alright. Oh, we just got Chalice of Life and death to death. Well then, Stony Silence in, negates in, Leyline of Sanctity actually does work. What are we going to go down? Maybe these escapes. Hopefully we get, well, alright, we'll go down Lightning Greaves. Now maybe we just go 2 Leyline of Sanctities. Let's try it like that. Well, at least we're not mulliganing. And we have a turn 1 Ancestral Visions, which is nice. So Sea Chrome Coast, Ancestral Visions, pass the turn, Plains for our opponent, and Seer Ascendant. Ancestral ticks down, Flooded Strand, go. Radiant Fountain for our opponent, up to 22. Rest for the Weary, well, I guess we counter that. Flooded Strand, get an island, remand the rest for the Weary. Into Paradox Haze. Problem is, we're going to be taking a ton of damage from this Ascendant, unless we draw removal. Well, Hallowed Fountain, untapped. Paradox Haze, targeting ourselves. It does mean our Ancestral comes down next turn. Our opponent's probably going to get this up to a 6/6 though, so we're going to have to find a removal spell. Yep, there's the rest for the Weary. Down to 10 with the combo. Alright, Ancestral, Paradox Haze, Ancestral. We get to draw 3. Come on, removal. Alright, there's a path. That was actually pretty good. Do we want to get down the second Paradox Haze? We could. Yeah, let's do it. Scalding Tarn, crack Scalding Tarn, get an island, and Paradox Haze, enchanting ourselves. Stop on our opponent's upkeep, get rid of this Seer Ascendant. Hopefully they don't have a second Ascendant. That would be bad. Mesmeric Orb. Double Mesmeric Orb. So our opponent's going to mill a bunch of stuff. I do not really know what's happening. We get 2 upkeeps that don't do much. We draw Negate, which is good. Celestial Colonnade, pass the turn. Opponent mills a ton of their own stuff. Plays a Kitchen Finks. Passes. We get some upkeeps. Draw a Hallowed Fountain. Let's Contagion Clasp on the Finks. Hallowed Fountain untapped so we don't get milled more. Seems like the milling might actually be a big deal in this game. Opponent gets in 4-2. We're down to 5. Martyr of Sands passes. Mills, we get some upkeeps. Alright, I guess we just pass the turn. Opponent's down to 26 cards. The problem is we gotta proliferate, I think, to kill this Finks. And that means we're gonna get milled 10. But I don't think we have a choice. Oh, painful. Well, we'd be in great shape if it wasn't for a Mesmeric Orb. Path to Exile. Alright, let's pass the turn. Opponent passes. We get some upkeeps. Alright, Ancestral Visions suspended. Pass the turn. Opponent passes. We mill 2. The problem is we can't even cast our win conditions. So I don't think there's really any way that we can win, unfortunately. So we get to remove 3 counters. Pass the turn. Well, looks like we're about to lose the Against the Odds mirror. Our opponent's going to tap out. Interesting. Gets a Martyr of Sands. Tax for 1. We could. How crazy is it to target our opponent? Right now they're at 19, but they're going to mill 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, down to 11, down to 8. We path the Ranger of Eos. Puts us at 9. What do we have left? Man, that sounds so crazy. It could work. Drawing us cards doesn't really help. We can't even play our Elocutors because we would die to the Mesmeric Orb. Alright, opponent, why don't you draw some cards? We get extra upkeeps. Pass the turn. Discard a Celestial Colonnade. Opponent's down to 6 cards. Goes attacking. Let's path. Are we... I think we're actually going to maybe beat our opponent with their own Mesmeric Orbs. Oh, so good. Because they pretty much just can't cast anything. Let's play Flooded Strand. Pass the turn. And they can't even really attack with their Martyr of Sands or they'll die to their Mesmeric Orb. Radiant Fountain. Gains our opponent some life. Passes. We get some upkeeps. Well, maybe we're going to win the Against the Odds mirror in the jankiest way possible. Island. Go. Opponent passes. We get some upkeeps. They don't do anything. Another Paradox Haze. Pass the turn. Opponent's down to 3 cards in their library. So I don't think they have a way they can kill us, because if they tap anything, they're going to die on their next upkeep. So they can't cast... They can't cast spells. Yes! Oh my god. So Ancestral on them actually won us the game. If we had drawn 3 instead of them, we would have lost. That was sweet in its own way. Game 3, and we're gonna try this. We got the turn 1 Ancestral. We got a million remands. If we draw a land, it's awesome. Land? Yes! Alright. That's exactly what we wanted. Now I feel justified for keeping this sketchy hand. Planes for our opponent. Passes. Even better. Now we get to start remanding stuff. I think against the odds, his mirror has shifted in our favor. Chalice of Life. I think we remand that because I actually would like to draw another land. Or a path. Path is good. Kinda. There's a land. Colonnade. Goo. Let's remand Calciderm. Get a verdict. Visions. Ticks down. Flooded Strand. Go. Chalice of Life. We'll let that go this time. Alright. We get our Ancestral. Number 1. Draw 3. And then let's just Colonnade. Go. That means we gotta discard 2 cards. We'll discard a Tech Edge. I guess we'll discard Paradox Haze for now. Martyr of Sands. Okay. Opponent's gonna reveal their hand. They're gonna flip their Chalice, which is actually fine. Whoa! All 4 Calciderms. We do want to be aware of that. That is a lot of Calciderms. So their hand is 4 Calciderms and 1 unknown card. They flip their Chalice. We sack Flooded Strand, get a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Polluted Delta, crack Polluted Delta, get an island, and just Stony Silence to shut down the Chalice. Pass the turn. Well, there's a Calciderm number 1. Yeah, let's let it go. We have Supreme Verdict. Opponent gets in 4-1. Well, let's Supreme Verdict, clear the board. Pass the turn. Let's remand this time. Remand the Calciderm, get an island. Our paths are not super great against mono Calciderms. Let's counter and draw. Hallowed Fountain. Another Cryptic, though. We're kind of working our way through these Calciderms. 2 down, 2 more to go. Mesmeric Orb. Well, that's annoying. Let's counter and draw that as well. Opponent passes. Let's fire up our Colonnade. Get in 4-4. Play Colonnade, pass the turn. I think we gotta finish dealing with the Calciderms before we can Elocute. There's a Calciderm. So let's pass the turn. Ticks down. Yeah, let's take it. Maybe they just play the other Calciderm and we can Supreme Verdict. It might be tempting. Opponent's going to Metamorph the Calciderm. We could also draw a counterspell. That would be nice. Scalding Tarn. Alright, that means we need to Supreme Verdict and start talking. Are you for real? Oh my lord. Oh, that was a Mana Tithe. We even had the land. I just did not expect Mana Tithe. There's a Mesmeric Orb, which means a lot of milling for us. Oh, this deck. So incredibly janky. Island, pass the turn. Opponent mills 2. Calciderm. Well, let's crack Scalding Tarn. Hopefully we have the land left. Last island. Cryptic means milling ourselves a lot, but pass the turn. Opponent mills themselves a bunch. Gets in with the Calciderm. Down to 4. Well, I guess we gotta play things. This is gonna mill us a ton, but Elocutors. Opponent has another Mana Tithe. Opponent untaps, mills 2. Yeah, we're gonna lose to this Mesmeric Orb this time. Kind of annoying. Plays a land. Maybe we just have to block here. I actually think we have to block. I think what we gotta do is just block. We gotta bounce this Mesmeric Orb. So, alright. Talking isn't gonna get us out of this one. And then at the end of our opponent's turn, return a permanent to our owner's hand. Its owner's hand, draw a card. Get a land, which is dead. A Stony Silence, also pretty dead. Alright, Flooded Strand, go. We're still gonna die to that Mesmeric Orb. Opponent goes attacking. We need to block with a Colonnade. Opponent replays Mesmeric Orb. We get 5 milled. Planes go. Opponent gets some milled, loses their 4th Calciderm, finally. Cryptic, Cryptic, Cryptic. Opponent's going to Metamorph the Mesmeric Orb. We pass. Our opponent gets some cards milled. How do you end up with 5 cards milled? Alright, we pass. Discard Contagion Clasp. Opponent passes. Flooded Strand, go. There's Snapcaster. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent passes. There's a negate. Still looking kind of like too little too late. Discard Leyline. Pass. Discard Stony Silence. Ancestral Visions. Pass. Discard. Yeah, that does it. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess this deck does not like Mesmeric Orb. Alright, against the odds. Elocuting our way through Modern, and we got a mulligan this one. Only 1 land. See what our opponent's on. Wooded Foothills. Cracks it. Sacred Foundry. So, burn probably. Ooh, Crusader, eh? Well, Flooded Strand, crack Flooded Strand, get a Plains, and we are just going to path this thing right away. You don't really play this fairly as a 1-1 for 1. You're planning on kind of comboing off with it, I think. Pass the turn. Clifftop Retreat, and Niv-Magus Elemental, and another Crusader. Well, Colonnade, go. Do we die this turn somehow? Alright, they're going to bolt their Crusader, then eat the bolt with Niv-Magus to get a token. Pumps it up to a 3-4. Opponent gets in for a bunch. 5, down to 14. And another Niv-Magus Elemental. So many creatures. Flooded Strand, go. Supreme Verdict would be helpful. Goblin Guide. Opponent's down to 2 cards. Dyna Charge on the Crusader. Are they going to eat it? They do. Pumps up Niv-Magus. Goes attacking. What does Goblin Guide reveal? We get a land. Well, let's crack Flooded Strand. Get an island. Snapcaster Mage. Targets the path. Then we block Goblin Guide. Path one of the Niv-Magus Elementals. And take 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we need a good draw. We need Supreme Verdict or Cryptic. Oddly, Dawn Charm is not bad. That is a redraw. We don't take any damage, so. Pass the turn. Opponent goes attacking. And we are just going to prevent all combat damage with Dawn Charm. Stay at 7. Opponent passes. Hey, alright. I mean, we don't really have a choice. So, let's see if we can talk our way out of this. Seems unlikely. Azor's Elocutors. And our opponent has Emerge Unscathed, which probably means we're dead. They target this 3, 4, 5, 6. We're dead to a lot of things, but I guess we're not just dead. Well, alright, now we're dead. Alright. Ghostly Prison comes in. Supreme Verdict certainly comes in. Another Dawn Charm. Go down Lightning Greaves. Go down a couple of Remands. And try it like that. Alright. We have Ancestral. Our opponent is mulliganing. Probably because they don't have a creature. That is definitely one of the problems with this deck. Suspend Ancestral. Pass the turn. Wooded Foothills. Cracks it. Looks like they found their creature. Goblin Guide. On top we have a land. Opponent passes. Ancestral ticks down. Well, let's Flooded Strand, pass the turn. Sacred Foundry, untapped. Opponent gets in with Goblin Guide. We have a Contagion Clasp on top. Down to 16. Young Pyromancer. Alright, let's let that go and just draw a Contagion Clasp. Opponent has some free spells. Gitaxian Probe, gonna get our opponent a token. Opponent passes. Ancestral ticks down. We have, what, 2 more turns after this one? So let's just Island, Contagion Clasp, kill Young Pyromancer. Pass the turn. Land for our opponent. Swift Spear. They're finding their creatures now. Alright, let's see what's on top of our deck. A Cryptic. We will keep Cryptic. Down to 12. Ancestral ticks down. We draw the Cryptic. Island, go. Sacred Foundry, tapped. Alright, crack Flooded Strand. Get a Plains, and we're just going to tap draw with Cryptic. Another Contagion Clasp. Alright, we need a good Ancestral here. Ancestral, gonna draw some cards. Not insane, but not horrible. Contagion Clasp on the token. Kill the token. Plains and pass the turn. Leave up Remand and Path. Land for our opponent. Emerged Unscathed on the Swift Spear. Let's Path Swift Spear. Fizzle emerge unscathed. Opponent gets another land. Gets in 4-2. On top we have a Paradox Haze. Not super exciting. Well, time to play it. Let's Elocute. Play the tap land, go. We could have a chance here, actually. Depends on what our opponent has. Opponent attacks with Goblin Guide. We get a land. Well, we are going to block. We have a second Elocutors, and our opponent scoops it up. Alright, well, we won a game! It's been a long, hard road. We didn't actually ultimate or win with Elocutors, although we kind of did, because it blocked for us. Alright, we got a Path. Path is good. Bloodstained Mire, cracks Bloodstained Mire, Mountain and Swift Spear. Gets in 4-1. Flooded Strand. Alright, Seachrome Coast, Suspend Ancestral, pass the turn. We can wait till next turn for Path, I think. Sacred Foundry. Untapped. Opponent's down to 17. And there's Young Pyromancer. Do they have a Probe? Gets in 4-1 with the Swift Spear. Apparently not, because they would have cast it. Ancestral ticks down. Ooh, that's a Supreme Verdict. Well, let's Path Young Pyromancer. Celestial Colonnade, go. Hope our opponent does not have Blood Moon. Blood Moon would be a blowout. Sacred Foundry, tapped. Crusader, opponent's down to 2 cards. Gets in 4-1, down to 17. Passes. Ancestral ticks down. We will play... Let's just go Hallowed Fountain tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent gets in with both, down to 15. Got a good feeling about this one. Lightning Bolts, our face gets a token. Pumps the Swift Spear. Alright, we're down to 11. And opponent passes. Ancestral takes down. We get an island, and... yeah, let's just Supreme Verdict. Pass the turn. Next turn, we get our Ancestral, and we have an Elocutors ready to go. Alright, down to 10. Ancestral comes off Suspend. We draw a bunch of cards. Pretty much slow Ancestral Recall. Now, Island, and let's start talking. So, we only got a filibuster for 5 turns. Actually, we can speed it up with the Paradox Haze eventually. Opponent has Path to Exile. Alright. Well, it doesn't really kill us, and we'll find another one eventually. Let's get a Island. Opponent gets in 4-2. Down to 8. Sacred Foundry, tapped. We draw a Path. Alright, Hallowed Fountain, tapped. Pass the turn. Gonna stop on our opponent's upkeep and Path the Swift Spear. Alright. Threat down. And now we got Cryptic for our opponent's next threat. And our opponent scoops it up! Well, we we won. We didn't get the alternate win, but we did win. So that's something. Alright, against odds, playing some Azor's Elocutors in Modern. And we will try this. We got a little bit of counter magic. Got some Contagion Clasps. Hopefully we're in a matchup where Contagion Clasp is good. Blue-white control, not necessarily that matchup. In fact, that might be the worst matchup for Contagion Clasp. I guess we could hit a Snapcaster Mage? Or a Wall of Omens. Take that, Wall of Omens. We have many remands. Flooded Strango. We are going to remand a Wall of Omens, because we are sort of remand flooded. And I would like to draw into non-remands. Another Tech Edge. Tech Edge is not bad in these matchups. Our opponent did have a land. Tech Edge, go. Alright, we'll let this one resolve. Polluted Delta. Pass the turn. Flooded Strand for our opponent. Passes. And we get a Tech Edge. And let's pass. Glacial Fortress. Ghost Quarter. Pass the turn. Do the draw go thing for a minute. Our opponent missed a land drop. That's sweet. We also are going to miss a land drop. That's alright. We can discard a Contagion Clasp. We will remand pretty much anything to try to hit more lands. Spreading Seas. Yeah, I guess that's remandable. There's a land. Our opponent hit a land too. Tricky opponent. Well, Celestial Colonnade, go. Opponent cracks their Flooded Strand. Restoration Angel. Alright, let's remand it. Opponent untaps. Spreading Seas, a Colonnade. Alright, we'll let that go. We have more of those. And then just main phases the Restoration Angel. Okay. Blinks it. And passes. Well, let's Contagion Clasp the Restoration Angel. Island and pass the turn. Opponent gets in 4-2. Spreading Seas, a Hallowed Fountain. So they're going to take us off of white mana? Okay. We can crack our Polluted Delta. I think they're just trying to find lands. Alright. We are going to Cryptic Command, counter draw. Crack our Polluted Delta. Yeah, let's just get an island. And then Tech Edge the Colonnade. Alright, play our Azor's Elocutors, number 1, and Island. Pass the turn. Gideon Jura for our opponent. Takes it up. Gets in 4-1. Removes a counter that's not there. Now, let's Tech Edge another land. Get a counter. Draw a Flooded Strand. We have to attack the Gideon. Opponent blocks. Double blocks. We'll play a second one. And a Flooded Strand. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to Detention Sphere. Alright. Gets rid of our Elocutors. Activates Gideon. Well, crack Flooded Strand. Get a Plains. And path the Gideon. Gets our opponent a land. We take 2. We draw another land. Keep on filibustering. And pass turn. Opponent gets in for 2, I assume. Yep. Down to 9. Kitchen Finks for our opponent. And Wall of Omens. Well, we get to proliferate. Put another counter on the Angel. See if we can draw something relevant here. Supreme Verdict isn't super exciting. So let's Paradox Haze, targeting ourselves. Hallowed Fountain, tapped, pass the turn. Path to Exile is pretty bad for us. Opponent goes attacking. We are going to Contagion Clasp. Proliferate. We can actually win next turn if they can't do anything to stop the filibuster. And they can. They have a path. We get a Plains. Well, we are essentially out of lands. Also, kind of out of action. Paradox Haze doesn't do much here. Well, we get to suspend Ancestral Vision. Supreme Verdict. They get back their Finks. And we pass the turn. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand. Well, let's Contagion Clasp. Do they have another Resto? They do not. Kill the Finks. Elspeth is pretty bad. Hey. Well, we get 2 counters off our Ancestral, which is nice. We draw another land. Pass the turn. Yeah, we're probably just going to die to Elspeth. Apparently, killing your opponent is better than trying to talk them to death. Make some more tokens. Detention Sphere on our Paradox Haze, I assume. Yep. So that means no Ancestral this turn. And another Kitchen Finks. So, I think we're Supreme Verdict or Bust, and we only have 1 Supreme Verdict. Well, if they don't have a counter, Dawn Charm would actually save us a turn. Ghost Quarter, well, Dawn Charm. Resolves, so we don't die this turn, and we get to attempt to resolve our Ancestral Visions. Come on! Do we get it? Our opponent's going to Sphinx's Revelation in response. That wasn't great. We're back to being pretty dead to a counter. Paradox Haze, Colonnade, go. So, tap draw with Cryptic to try to stay alive. Ugh, and draw into nothing. Opponent makes some more tokens. Another Spreading Seas. We have drawn many lands. Lands are good, and being ahead on lands is good, but... Alright, Hallowed Fountain, tapped, pass the turn. We're going to Snapcaster the Cryptic, I believe. Snapcaster Mage for Cryptic Command. Tap and draw. We are dead to a remand. Alright, well, no remand. Lightning Greaves isn't helpful. But it makes more tokens. Plays a land. We get a second upkeep. And Ancestral. Alright, that does it. We don't have a ton for this matchup. We get the negates. Nothing else seems all that great. I guess we just get the negates and go down a couple of Contagion Clasps. Try it like that. We get to play first. Ugh, no lander. Alright, I guess that's sort of better. Hallowed Fountain to the bottom for now. Seachrome Coast and Ancestral Visions. Colonnade for our opponent. Ancestral ticks down. Supreme Verdict. We will just play Island, pass the turn. Hallowed Fountain for our opponent, tapped. Ancestral ticks down. Tectonic Edge and Paradox Haze, enchanting ourselves. So that makes our Ancestral come down next turn if our opponent can't counter it. Another tap land. So Ancestral takes down. We get another upkeep. Ancestral. I guess Remand stops it temporarily. It does resolve. Well, we get another Ancestral, a Celestial Colonnade, and pass the turn. Plains for our opponent. Alright. 2 upkeeps, taking down our Ancestrals. Paradox Haze is sweet with Ancestral Visions. We get a Remand, so let's just Colonnade, pass the turn, leave up Remand. There's the Resto. We will let it resolve and just Path to Exile. Plains for our opponent. Gideon, we will Remand. Get a Snapcaster. Ancestral comes down. The old 2-turn Ancestral, almost Ancestral Recall. Draws us 3. Let's Island Lightning Greaves and pass the turn. Leave up Snapcaster Remand. Spreading Seas on our Colonnade, sure. Spreading Seas on our Colonnade, also sure. And Kitchen Finks. Alright. We'll let Finks go. Paradox Haze ticks up. We draw a path, which is sweet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Get the Filibuster going. And Lightning Greaves. So it's not going to get pathed. Pass the turn. Ghost Quarter for our opponent. And Gideon Jura. Sure. Takes it up. And a Wall of Omens. Alright, let's crack Flooded Strand. Get a Hallowed Fountain. Tapped. We get 2 counters, so we actually have the potential of winning next turn. Maybe. Another path. Alright, let's path the Kitchen Finks. Attack Gideon because we have to. Opponent blocks with Wall of Omens. Sure. Then we Contagion Clasp on the Wall of Omens, which kills it. And pass the turn. Opponent has Supreme Verdict. Alright. Can't stop that. Activates Gideon. Alright, let's path Gideon. Opponent has a negate. Okay. Paradox Haze, not doing much here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, let's just suspend our escape. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Takes up Gideon. Goes 2 attacks. Well, let's Snapcaster Mage for the path and path Gideon. There's Elspeth. Gonna start making some tokens. Alright, escape ticks down. 1 more Paradox Haze would be really sweet. Then we'd have it every turn. We draw Remand. Well, let's try another Filibuster. And do we want to attack Elspeth? Probably not. Make some tokens. Ghost Quarter. No attacks. So, Chromatic Escape comes down. Alright, we're going to Remand the Sphinx's Revelation. And our opponent has a Dispel. Alright, so they get to draw some cards. We get Chromatic Escape. Cast Chromatic Escape. Our opponent can't attack. We get a Filibuster counter. Oh, we're so close. Supreme Verdict is bad for us, though. If our opponent doesn't have Supreme Verdict, we win next turn. But they did just draw 7. Alright, there's a negate. Doesn't stop Supreme Verdict, though. Pass the turn. Did you draw a Supreme Verdict? How many would you even leave in against this deck? Opponent, you got it? Oh my goodness, no! Oh man. And the Detention Sphere. That is a really unfortunate series of events there. Spreading Seas. And now we're pretty much just dead. We were so close. Well, we get to bounce Elspeth, draw a card. Opponent has negate. Well, I guess we negate it back, although it's not super helpful. And that does it. Alright. Oh, my lord. Oh, not gonna happen with this one. Alright, against odds time, filibustering in Modern. I don't know if this one's gonna happen. If we have a chance, this might be it. Our opponent's going to 5. Island go. We don't really have the combo, but we do have a Paradox Haze. See what our opponent's on. Island. And Serum Visions. Leaves them both on top. Well, Tech Edge, go. Arid Mesa for our opponent. Alright, let's Remand Serum Visions. Get a Plains. Opponent wants to draw that card, so they pass. Hallowed Fountain, untapped. And suspend our escape. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Arid Mesa, gets his Steam Vents, untapped, and Young Pyromancer. Gitaxian Probes, gets a token. So this looks like a Delver deck, most likely. Opponent passes. We get a counter off our escape. Well, Paradox Haze, targeting ourselves. Flooded Strand, go. Island for our opponent. Serum Visions, gets another token. 1 on top, gets in for 3, down to 15, and another Serum Vision. So many Serum Visions. Alright, our stuff ticks down. We are 1 Paradox Haze away from having our Chronomantic escape every turn. Well, I guess we go for it. Crack our Flooded Strand, get an island, play the plains, and start the filibuster. Pass the turn. Oh man, we kinda have it assembled. Can they kill it is the question. They can't attack this turn. Oh, they're playing Jeskai? That means they probably do have Path to Exile, which is bad. Yep, there's the path. Disappointing. Alright, we get a land. Might as well get an island. And our opponent bolts. They're down to 4 cards. Well, start ticking down. We get a path. Not great at the moment. Let's just pass the turn. Island for our opponent. Goes on the attack. Well, let's prevent all combat damage. And then hit the Hallowed Fountain. So we want to resolve our escape first. And then Paradox Haze will take a counter off of it. Yeah, let's just pass. No attacks. We keep removing counters. Cast our escape. Another remand. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent passes. We could use a land. We get counter off our escape, counter off our escape. Ugh, Seachrome Coast tapped. Alright. Delver of Secrets. Well, let's Snapcaster Mage. Targeting our Dawn Charm. And then cast Dawn Charm, prevent all combat damage. We don't have a remand to protect it, though. But it resolves. Alright. Well, we kind of got the machine in place, but we don't have a finisher. Or the last second Paradox Haze. Opponent tries to remand. Let's just remand the remand. Get a Colonnade. Play the Colonnade. Pass the turn. Could also use like a Supreme Verdict. Delver does not flip. Land for our opponent. Alright, get some counters off things. Cast our Chromatic Escape. Opponent remands. Alright, we'll let it go this time. There's Supreme Verdict. So let's Supreme Verdict. Get rid of all that stuff. Hallowed Fountain, tapped, pass the turn. Castle for our opponent. And Geist of St. Traft. Well, let's just cast our escape. Pass the turn. Ghost Quarter for our opponent. Alright, we start getting counters off of things. And then Paradox Haze, enchanting ourselves. Hallowed Fountain, tapped, pass the turn. Opponent goes attacking. We are going to path the Angel token, just to maintain our life total. Opponent gets planes. End of turn, Lightning Helix. Alright, let's remand Lightning Helix. So, our opponent's creatures can never attack, but we're still in danger of dying to burn spells. Contagion class doesn't really help. So let's suspend another escape, pass the turn. Opponent probably going to be able to burn us out. There's the Helix, down to 6. Ghost Quarter passes. Oh, so many counters coming off of our escapes. Flooded Strand. Well, let's fire up our Colonnade. Opponent's going to Ghost Quarter it. We get a Plains. Contagion Clasp doesn't really do much, but lets us proliferate if we draw into a Azor's Elocutors. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Didn't burn us again. Flooded Strand. Alright, we remove a million counters, get some upkeeps. This is pretty crazy. Remove some more counters. Remove some more counters. So we're actually casting 2 Chronomantic escapes every turn. Alright, filibuster time. Opponent probably has a path. Pass the turn. Cracks the Flooded Strand. Sacred Foundry, tapped. Untaps. Flooded Strand. Yep, there's another path. Get an island. Oy, oy, oy. Alright, keep our opponent's creatures from attacking. Get some upkeeps. Remove some more counters. Remove some more counters. Cast another one. Opponent cracks their Flooded Strand on our upkeep. Alright, we pass the turn. Problem is we're going to die to burn spells. Go through our little process here again. Remove some counters, take some upkeeps. Cast another Chronomantic Escape. And a Polluted Delta. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent untaps and passes the turn. We get another escape. Remove some counters, remove some counters. Escape number 2. Pass the turn. Our paths aren't doing much because we already have creatures locked out of the game. Escape, remove counters, escape. Alright, suspend Ancestral Visions, pass the turn. Flooded Strand. Opponent passes. Everything ticks down. Escape, everything ticks down. Escape, everything ticks down. Cast Escape. Another Paradox Haze, enchanting ourselves. Pass the turn. We're not dead yet. I'm amazed that we're not dead yet, but there's a Helix. Opponent passes. We're down to 3. Well, resolve some triggers. Ancestral Visions. Well, this is the dream, except we're basically dead. Can we draw a Cryptic, please? Another escape. And it's still going. So many upkeeps. Polluted Delta. Filibuster again. And pass the turn. Hope that somehow we don't just die to burn spells and snapcasters. Opponent Vapor Snags. And passes. Maybe. And Electrolyze. Alright. No. We just... It's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Not in a million years. Oh, alright, we get Negates. I guess we get Ley Lines of Sanctity. Supreme Verdict. I don't know what to go down here. Dawn Charm. A Cryptic. Maybe we just trim things. Let's try it like that. Alright, we get to play first. So Island, Ancestral, go. Flooded Strand for our opponent. Cracks it. Hallowed Fountain, untapped. Answer Visions. Ancestral, alright. Colonnade, go. Delver for our opponent. And Probes. And our opponent passes. Not having a second land is kind of good. Flooded Strand, crack Flooded Strand, get an Island, and Paradox Haze. Pass the turn. Does Delver flip? If it does, then it means they don't have a land. Does flip with a Lightning Helix. And Tear. Okay. Well, Ancestral ticks down. Flooded Strand, crack Flooded Strand, get an Island, and let's just Cryptic this Delver. Bounce it, draw a card. Pass the turn. There's the Delver. And still no land. Opponent has to discard something. A Geist. We get Ancestral Visions. Well, let's Island and start the Filibuster. Pass the turn. Delver does not flip. A Jano Castle. Another Delver. Opponent passes. We get a Filibuster counter. Paradox Haze, targeting ourselves. Suspend Ancestral. And Seachrome Coast. Pass the turn. Hope the Delvers don't flip. Do they flip? No flip. Could mean another land, though. Steam Vents is revealed. There's the land. And Lightning Helix to our face removes a counter. Alright, let's see what we draw. We get double counters. Ancestral ticks down twice. A Plains. Alright, let's attack. I think we might just have to Wrath here, unfortunately. Put our opponent to 13. Because if they flip the Delvers, that's just so much damage. Wrath. Scalding Tarn. Pass the turn. Serum Visions for our opponent. Lightning Bolts our face. Down to 9. Well, looks like no counter. Well, let's crack Scalding Tarn. Hallowed Fountain. Go to 8. We get to draw some cards. Man, if we could find a Ley Line, that might be what wins us the game. Remands, Paths. Well, let's start the Filibuster, play the Plains, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, Island, and a Serum Visions. Opponent passes. Alright, we get a couple counters. Paradox Haze, number 2. Hallowed Fountain tapped. Pass the turn. Oh, is this it? Are we finally going to do it? Opponent goes with Electrolyze. Alright, let's remand Electrolyze. Another path wasn't really what we were hoping for. Scalding Tarn for our opponent. Boros Charm. And passes. Well, we get some more counters. Up to 4. Oh, Colonnade. Alright. Oh, it's not gonna happen. This is how it ends. As close as it gets, but no cigar. Oh. Well, apparently filibusters are not a good idea. Steam Vents untapped. Opponent's down to 10. They Electrolyze, and then we are dead to a burn spell. Yep, down to 2. Removes a counter. Plains, Probes, sees our mono path hand. Oh boy. And Electrolyze. Engineered Explosives X3. Alright, not Electrolyze. Can kill our Paradox Hazes. So we need... Well, Cryptic is pretty good. Hallowed Fountain, tapped. Go Beatdowns. There might be a world where Cryptic lets this happen. We'll have to see what our opponent has. Oh, we have hope. Very slight hope, but still hope. Oh, we did it. We did it. It happened. Well, I mean, technically our opponent didn't let us filibuster them. Oh, which is a shame, but that counts. We we got there. Oh my god. Oh my god. I did not think it would ever happen. All right, let's see if we can win this match. I was getting a little nervous there. Oh, I thought we were dead for sure to a burn spell. Well, that counts as a win. Our opponent didn't actually let us get the 5th counter, but it counts. Oh man, we got a ley line. Ley line's so good. And alright, let's be risky. We got a ley line. Hopefully we draw lands. Steam Vents, untapped, and Storm Visions. And we're on the draw, and we really only need 1 land to get to remand. Land? Another Contagion Clasp. Alright, pass the turn. Hallowed Fountain. We do not get a land. Leyline is so good against them, too. Young Pyromancer. Land? Ugh. The nightmare. Opponent cracks Arid Mesa. Gets a tap Sacred Foundry. We will discard a Contagion Clasp. Oh, if we had drawn 1 land. Gets in 4-2. Passes. And not a land. Well, let's discard Paradox Haze. I mean, Leyline is pulling its weight, but if we don't draw a second land, it's not going to matter. Another remand. So, I guess we discard Paradox Haze. Opponent cracks Arid Mesa. We do have quite a few lands in this deck. Pyromancer hits us again. Well, there's a land. Contagion Clasp. Do you got a counter? Of course they do. Pass the turn. Another Young Pyromancer. And a Delver. Well, that's a hand you want against a Leyline. Opponent gets in 4-3. Do we draw land? Another island. Not good. Well, I mean, Contagion Clasp. Kills a Young Pyromancer. Island, go. We really needed some white mana in there for Supreme Verdict and Path to Exile. Does Delver flip? It does, with a Lightning Helix. So, we are on a dead next turn clock. And our opponent has a Boros Charm. So 6, 7, 8, 9 we're taking. Oh, this was a 1-2. Well, at least we won a game. We won a game. We got severely punished for a risky keep here. And too little, too late. Alright, well, we did it. We did it. We couldn't win the match. We couldn't draw a second land. But at least we finally did it. Oh, this was a rough one. But we got there. So what did we learn this week? I think I can sum it up pretty simply. So when we started off this deck, I optimistically named it Filibusted because I thought we were going to break it. And now, as you can see, the name is Filibluster because we were actually just all bluster and couldn't really make it work. Honestly, though, Azor's Elocutors is just not very good. You could have a 5-mana creature in Modern that said, if I sit on the battlefield for 5 turns, then you win the game. And I'm still not sure that would be good. Because there's just so much good removal. And Azor's Elocutors is even worse than that because any amount of damage we take removes counters. So there were so many times, or quite a few times, where we were super close to doing it. And then all of a sudden, our opponent would electrolyze us or get in with a crappy creature, and we'd remove a counter, and everything would go to pieces. So, I think our deck was sweet. I like the Paradox Haze synergy. We actually lock someone with Chronomatic Escape in Paradox Haze. I think for an Azor's Elocutors deck, if we're going to try to filibuster someone to death, this is the best way of doing it. But winning with filibuster counters just isn't really practical in Modern. It's too efficient of a format for a 5-mana creature that needs to sit on the battlefield for 5 turns to really get the job done. So overall, we won 4 of 13 matches, which puts us just below the 25% mark, about the 20% mark. But not many of those wins are actually attributable to our Azor's Elocutors. Most of those wins were just random wins where we kind of controlled the game and our opponent scooped it up. We had one game which was 100% attributable to our Elocutors, the one near the end there, against the Jeskai Delver deck. So we did finally, after a lot of matches and a very hard fight, filibuster someone into oblivion, but the other wins weren't necessarily because of our Elocutors, although that might have been. There was a couple of games where it was borderline, where our opponent scooped it up, we probably would have gotten there in the way we would have won the game would have been with Elocutors, but it's not like we were putting the 5th counter on it and our opponent scooped it up, which is basically what happened in the Jeskai Delver game. We were right at the point of winning when our opponent scooped. So anyway, it was fun, just not very good. I hope it was fun to watch. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our filibluster against the odds, and I will talk to you soon.